Today on Town Hall.
People with paralysis or need to use a wheelchair or they have vision loss and they have cognitive deficits, they can't go into just any old gym and exercise on that equipment. There's so many variables there to consider. So we're trying to figure out what does that all look like in our performance lab.
My name is Bill Russell. I'm a former CIO for a 16 hospital system and creator of This Week Health, where we are dedicated to transforming healthcare one connection at a time. Our Town Hall show is designed to bring insights from practitioners and leaders on the front lines of healthcare. All right, let's jump right into today's episode.
Welcome to another This Week Health Town Hall. I'm excited to have Debbie Backus here from Shepherd Center. Today we get to feature the importance of innovation and technology in rehabilitation. Welcome, Debbie.
Thank you.
I'm excited to have you here. First question I have for you as we jump right into this. Can you share a little bit of a background about Shepherd Center, its mission, and how innovation and technology play into the role of driving the organization's goals forward?
Well, that's a big one altogether. Yes.
I know, right?
So, Shepherd Center, you mentioned, we are a not-for-profit organization, hospital in Atlanta, Georgia. We were founded in 1975 by James Shepherd after he sustained a spinal cord injury. He and his parents, Alana and Harold Shepherd, decided that we needed to have a rehab center dedicated to people with spinal cord injury in the Southeast United States. We have, over the years, become a top-ranked facility where we provide medical treatment, we conduct research, and we provide rehabilitation to people with not only now with spinal cord injury, but also with brain injury and multiple sclerosis, chronic pain, and similar related conditions, some of the most complex conditions. And our mission is to provide world-class clinical care to patients and their families, and to conduct research to accelerate recovery, to advance discoveries, not only to improve the care that we provide at Shepherd Center, but also in the field, and promote lifelong health in people with these very complex conditions. In order to do that, not only do we have to provide that care as it is today, what best practices are, but we're creating the next generation through conducting our innovative research and developing other innovative programs that provide new opportunities to develop solutions and technologies for our patients.
That is a huge mission, very meaningful. What kind of assistive technologies for like daily living and mobility are you seeing being leveraged by Shepherd Center as you guys are driving that mission forward?
Yeah, so when we think about assistive technologies, we definitely address mobility needs for people with paralysis or very weak extremities or other challenges that keep them from being able to walk around in their home or their community. Working with, it's obvious, wheelchairs, manual wheelchairs, but there's also power wheelchairs. Well, not everybody can utilize the wheelchairs if they don't have function of their hands. They may not be able to drive a power wheelchair, let alone push a manual wheelchair, right?
Right.
So we have both in-house and with working with industry partners helped to identify ways that those wheelchairs can be modified to be accessible to more people. So we've partnered with industry partners who have created tongue drives with a switch on the tongue. They
Wow.
can control the
Wow.
they can control the device with that switch. Things called a sip and puff. It can sip through like a straw-like mechanism that controls the switches to drive the wheelchair. We even have worked with one partner who works with eye gaze to be able to control the switches on the wheelchairs. Similarly,
Wow.
those mechanisms can be used to control the environment. So to help somebody be able to turn on and off their lights, to control a monitor so they can see who is at the door so that they don't put themselves at risk just letting anybody come into their home. And that's something that at Shepherd, since 1975, that's been very important to us. How can we help use the technologies we have, or can we create new ones if they don't exist, that allows people right away to have access to their environment, to have them have as many ways of being independent as much as possible. So as soon as they came into Shepherd, even way back when, they would be set up with some way of controlling the switch in the room so they could call a nurse. Because imagine laying on your back, not being able to use your arms and not being able to roll or move,
Right.
and needing somebody to come and give you a sip of water or something that simple, or scratch an itch on your nose. If you're in pain or
Mm-hmm.
whatever the reason might be, you need somebody to come, you need a mechanism to do that. Well, Shepherd quickly stood up a way to use that sip and puff mechanism or to use a head switch by moving their head on the pillow to do the nurse call light, to turn the TV on and off, those various things.
Yeah, that is incredible. And I love the approach of meeting people with where they're at with their current capabilities to enable their freedom, right? Like you said, the self-sufficiency is so important to the individual. And Shepherd Center really does so much to go all the way to make sure that they're meeting people where they're at, right? And as we talk
Yes.
about different populations, I know you mentioned earlier on when we spoke a lot about robotics and exoskeletons and some of the really cool technology coming out, but it's expensive, right? How does Shepherd Center really focus on meeting people where they're at in terms of capabilities for demographics, equity, and things like that?
Well, so that's an interesting question because we can do some of that now, and we do our very best to really understand
Mm-hmm.
and do assessments and understand who the person is, where they're going to be going back to, and what are the resources they have, and that dictates what we offer. In our research, we don't just think about the coolest new technologies that cost a lot of money, but what do those technologies afford us that once we demonstrate, for instance, that the robotic upper arm, the arm training device that's a robot can accomplish certain things, we look at what are those features and what can we make available at a lower cost for other settings where they may not have the funds to do that or the patient that may not
Sure.
have that. The other part of what we're trying to do is develop our precision rehab. So we have almost 50 years of data. Not all of it's totally accessible, but we have a lot of data on patients that we can leverage and
Yeah.
look at to learn what worked to get those people to their outcomes. And then we can use that for predictive analytics for patients coming in. And we can say, okay,
Mm-hmm.
let's collect this data from you, compare that to these thousands of patients like you and see what worked best for them, see what other things that you will need. It might mean we can try it here, or it might mean that we can figure out how to get that to you when you're in your home environment. We are building an innovation institute in which we will have a fully outfitted, cutting edge technology for movement analysis, for behavior analysis, so that we can collect data about each individual, what their functional abilities are, understand better what they need, so that we can even more quickly get them to in the right direction for what they need and figure that out. And what we will do with that is we'll take into consideration where are you going? What are your social demographic variables? Who are you as a
Sure.
person? Because all of us come with us ourselves as a person. All of our patients come as people. And
Right.
you have to consider all of those things. So we want to get as much of that information as possible so that we can start again comparing to what we've already learned. Our experts are involved in figuring out what this person might need and then come up with the best solution for that individual person.
As they're working through the plans for the individual, are they starting to use any AI technologies, either in terms of building out the assessment, how to provide them the best possible rehabilitation solutions, or just for data mining or predictive analytics?
Yeah, so we are building a remote monitoring program where we're using remote sensors in the home and the community as well as here at Shepherd. But we know that sometimes in our controlled environment, somebody might do okay. Then they go home
Mm-hmm.
to their busy environment, non-accessible environment, no resource environment, and all of a sudden they're very challenged. So we have investigators that are working with remote technologies and collecting data from people, whether it's with MS or spinal cord injury or brain injury, pulling that data in and combining it with our EMR data and developing dashboards that will then bring that data back to that person, to the patient,
Mm-hmm.
that might facilitate the discussion with their clinicians, their physical therapists, the occupational therapist. It might go directly
Yeah.
to a clinician so the clinician can see what's going on with that patient in the community. And that might facilitate discussions with the patient and may allow the clinician to say, I see that you've decreased your activity. Why is that? And that can
Yeah.
help us to identify problems sooner or really get to the heart of the problems so that we can come up with the best solution. And then in another line of work, working with partners at other academic and clinical facilities to take that information and drive a chatbot so that a
Okay.
chatbot that can
Yeah.
then interact with a person can interact with. That could be for mental health type issues, identifying symptoms, or promoting that whatever it is that they need to be working on.
Yeah, absolutely. That's wonderful. And it kind of ties into the innovation mindset, right? And you mentioned that Shepherd Center has been working on an innovation institute. Can you tell us a little bit about the approach that the institute is taking towards innovation?
So I wish you could see my board back here. So essentially, we're taking that data-driven approach, taking data that we have, figuring out what data we still need that would help us do better, bring that in, combining it so we understand the whole person and the whole population to drive the development of new solutions, rehab, health and wellness solutions to advance that lifelong health and wellness and fully living after a traumatic injury or in the case of a disease like MS, or helping to develop new platforms and new technologies. Actually, and we're doing things like standing up what we're doing with Burnalong. Through Burnalong,
Yeah.
when somebody has a condition like spinal cord injury or MS or brain injury, and they have physical and cognitive challenges, it's difficult to find the tools and the experts across the country. There's not a Shepherd Center in every community or a Spalding Rehab, or I shouldn't even name any others because I might leave somebody out. But there's just a small group of us who have the expertise. So by using Burnalong, we're providing live and on-demand classes provided by experts to push out exercise and wellness and education and training so that people can get that in their communities. We're also combining that with coaching, which we can do virtually. We're combining it with remote monitoring. So as somebody's doing a class, we could be collecting information about how they're performing the class, how many repetitions. We can see how they're doing in between classes with that remote monitoring. We're using that information to then inform what's going on. So we're coming up with a solution that's not just for our patients here, but that can serve people elsewhere as well. And all those tools, they're all tools that we've either developed in-house or we're working with partners to come up with, let's fill this gap in a new way. So we have a new model of care or a new solution that can reach more people.
Sure.
Now I forget
That's
the original
fantastic.
question.
No, that's fantastic. So by leveraging the Burnalong platform, you're able to create content and share it more broadly. Do you share it beyond Shepherd Center patients? Like, can other rehab centers leverage it as well? Or other people, just like individuals who have access to the Burnalong platform, access the programs that you create?
Yes, they can join Burnalong and they can access the content. So our patients get the content. They have access to it when they're inpatients. We offer live classes and we offer on-demand classes. When we get to our Innovation Institute, we're going to be able to provide even more classes in our Best Health Suite, which is a fully instrumented studio that'll allow us to bring people in, do the classes, and then somebody can join the Burnalong platform and they can search for whatever they need. So they might say they need classes because they're paralyzed or they're very weak,
Sure.
or they have MS or spinal cord. They can search for that kind of content and it will pull up the content that we're providing. And it can be something that's as simple as resistance activities and how to safely do exercise if you have MS and you don't want to get too fatigued. It could be modifying exercises so that because they may have balance challenges, how do you modify those and do things in sitting that will address what you need in your core? Or it might be education and training about nutrition for if you have MS or you need to be healthier or lose weight, even
Yeah.
though you have paralysis, that sort of thing. And you can't maybe exercise at the same level as you did before your injury.
Yep, I think that's great. And then there's also the Performance Lab, in addition to the Best Health Suite, where you're leveraging Burnalong. But tell me more about the Performance Lab and how you're going through movement assessments and helping to meet patients where they're at. I continue to, that mission and goal of just meeting patients where they're at is so important, especially in the rehab, I imagine. And so tell me a little bit about how you guys are approaching the Performance Lab side of the Innovation Institute.
So the Performance Lab is primarily an assessment lab. It will have force plates and a walkway to collect how people walk. It'll also, it's 3D cameras everywhere to look at what's happening in their body when they're walking or when they're using their arms or performing other activities of daily living. There will be a VR treadmill that we can assess how people do in very busy environments so that we can start to tailor the treatment to help them be successful in their environment. And we will also be doing behavioral assessments, trying to understand what motivates you. What are your goals? Because telling them you have to come in here to exercise 3 days a week, there's so many people in general who don't do that, or they do different things on different days depending on their moods. But people with paralysis or need to use a wheelchair, or they have vision loss and they have cognitive deficits, they can't go into just any old gym and exercise on that equipment. There's so many variables there to consider. So we're trying to figure out, what does that all look like in our performance lab? That data will feed back into our data hub and be combined with other meaningful data about each person as
Okay.
well. We'll
Yeah.
also be collecting the data from the remote sensors. We have a brilliant team of data scientists, very small but mighty, where they are bringing in the data from things like Fitbits and different sensors, different monitoring devices. So not everybody's going to have a Fitbit. Not everybody's going to have a Whoop. If somebody doesn't have any,
Right.
can we provide them with something that we can pull in that information? We want to meet them where they are. So we're building the infrastructure to be able to do that. Working with a company that puts sensors in clothing and socks that we can
Oh,
provide.
wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really fun. Yeah.
That's fun. I imagine the data is just growing by leaps and bounds. Your data analytics teams, are they leveraging data governance at all
Oh,
to
yes.
help kind of manage and organize the enterprise around what data you have? Is it quality? Can it be trusted? Especially since you're using it to drive some strategic decision making.
Yes, so we are definitely, we partner with and integrate with our IS governance team.
Okay, great.
And so we are very integrated and work very closely with IS. They work very closely with us. They support us as much as they can. Of course, we do have to think about and focus on the keep the lights on. We are a clinical facility. We're always cognizant of that. So we communicate, we collaborate with the other leaders to figure out the best way to do this and to prioritize our asks. Our keep the lights on in research and innovation is, well, we have to be able to do the research that we get funding for. If we don't do it, we don't get the funding. So there's that. And we can only be able to assess the data and do the things we do with that support. So in order to keep our lights on, that's what we have to do. But it starts at our leadership. Shepherd's leadership values research and innovation. That's why we've been here since 1996. When we were first founded, the research was first established. But the patients are a North Star. So if it doesn't serve the patient, we're not going to ask for it. And if we do make the mistake and somehow don't understand how it won't serve the patient and we ask, we'll be redirected. And if they don't see it, we have to make the case that if we don't do this, we're not serving our patients. So it is a give and take, constant communication. Yeah.
Yep, I love that. And it's definitely fostering that collaborative environment, especially between a technology team, driving innovation, and working with other business units across, I imagine, the entirety of Shepherd Center. How do you make sure that you guys are aware of each other and priorities, and making sure that when there's competing priorities, you guys are micro-focused on the things that are going to move the meter for your patients?
So that's a lot of that's my job. Is I am part of operations teams. So I hear what the problems are, I bring it back. I bring to them some of the solutions that we're working on. I share that. And it's a process. It is an iterative process that has been going on for a while. Establishing the communication, establishing the trust, demonstration. Everything's a pilot. We have to demonstrate it. We can't just say it and expect that they believe it. So we do a lot of pilots and we report back. And it's really exciting to watch as it takes off. Like in the beginning, talking about the data science and what's possible, we did one project to demonstrate, and there's like a little bit more enthusiasm. And then we did something else. And now the brain injury program director, is all in. I don't have to say a word. I mention what we've done with her, and she takes off, and she's the one telling everybody just
That's
how awesome
great.
the program is. And that's kind of how that's been what it's been like for me for 30 years here, is that. So
That is fantastic. So you have people out there evangelizing the research that you guys are doing with your
yes,
data scientists. That is huge in terms of bringing the business to the table to get that buy-in and then go be able to commit to beyond the proof of
yes.
concept, right? And deliver on a broader scale.
The same thing happened with Burnalong. When we first started
Mm-hmm.
talking about it, we had one person, she's leading the effort, she's doing an amazing job. And we started talking about it. And I honestly thought that one program was going to be better prepared to take off with it. We started having regular meetings. They weren't the ones. It was another program that jumped on. And now all of the programs are interested at different levels, and we don't push it.
Mhm.
We just say, this is a
Yeah.
resource. We want to work with you. We need your expertise. But if you're not ready right now, we'll work over here. But then all of a sudden it's like knocking on the door, we're ready. And so
Yeah.
it's been really fun to watch it grow. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I have one last question for you, and this is
Okay.
a future question. So, what trends or developments do you see shaping the future of Shepherd Center's approach over the next 3 to 5 years?
Definitely AI and LLMs, the large language models, for precision rehab, being able to figure out what each individual needs. Because just because somebody has the same level of spinal cord injury doesn't mean they have the same needs as the person right next to them. So it's what they each need. The data and analytics, we need deeper insights to really drive actionable decisions, and the development of new tools and new strategies, and not just at the facility, at the home. I just heard today, for people who've had severe strokes where both sides of their body are affected, in the last year and a half, 2 years, the length of stay has decreased by 23 days. 23 days.
Wow.
What the heck? So
That,
that means
yeah,
that's going to happen. It's unfortunate. What can we do for them when they go home? What are the tools we
right.
can provide? What can we do with Burnalong to make sure they still get exercise and training and all of that? What can we do with the mobility tools? Can we do with remote monitoring so we figure out when they're having problems? How can we help transition them? Really important. And we've all, as a community, rehab medicine, we've gotten a little bit better at this, but engaging all of the stakeholders in the process. So it's not just the clinicians, but it's our industry partners, it's policymakers, it's other leaders in the field, bringing them all together. And I think you and I have talked about this, is thinking about the caregiver strategy. We have a
Yep.
peer support program. We engage them in these discussions now. We use them as a tool to disseminate information as well, but we also bring them in early to help us identify the most meaningful problems to pursue solutions for. We have an advisory council of care partners that meets regularly, and we can go to them and say, this is our idea. What do you think? We're going to be standing up Burnalong in our best health suite in the new building. We need to charge. What do you think is reasonable? You see, this is the
Right.
content. What do you think would be meaningful to offer to our patients? Yeah, so with Burnalong, they can invite other family members to participate. So
Hmm.
they're building a community or friends or other people with MS, whatever it takes
Yeah.
to make them feel comfortable. And we do that in our other programs as well. Try to figure out how can we leverage and bring in. We have family dinners once on, I think it's
Oh,
once
wow.
a week. Yeah. And different people come
Cool.
together, different family members, our community partners, our board members. So really building that community of support, not just for when they're here, but for when they leave as well.
And that's really addressing it like digitally and in person. So again, meeting people where they're at, and just like, I love the idea of the weekly dinner, because just the conversation around a meal can be so different and so much more open, because it's very
Yeah.
casual and everybody has to eat, right? So it
Yeah.
creates that support network has to be amazing. It
Yeah.
gets created in that in person as well as the digital experience, and being able to educate your loved ones or a caregiver of, these are the videos, these are the things I have to do to get better or to improve some function or whatever it is. And being able to share that and educate along the way is so important. So somebody can be on the journey with you, and you're not alone in
Right.
that journey. So
Right.
very
Right.
good. Well, thank you so much, Debbie, for your time today. I truly appreciate it. I love hearing
Absolutely.
about the innovative way you're thinking about just rehabilitation at Shepherd Center and helping drive forward the mission and the goals that you guys have is just outstanding. I just really appreciate your time today and talking with me.
Thank you so much for asking me. I've had fun. I appreciate it.
Good. Excellent. Thank you so much, Debbie.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to this week's Town Hall. A big thanks to our hosts and content creators. We really couldn't do it without them. We hope that you're going to share this podcast with a peer or a friend. It's a great chance to discuss and even establish a mentoring relationship along the way. One way you can support the show is to subscribe and leave us a rating. That would be really appreciated. Thanks for listening. That's all for now.